After the reunion, Christina Applegate completely exposes Ed O'Neill. Nobody expected the podcast episode to land the way it did. Christina Applegate has given hundreds of interviews over the course of a career that spans nearly 4 decades. She has talked about her films, her television work, her health, and her family. But when she sat across from Ed O'Neill on her messy podcast in August 2024, something different happened. The walls came down. The stories that had lived quietly between two people for nearly 40 years finally came out into the open. And what Christina said about the man she called her TV father changed the way millions of fans understood one of the most beloved sitcoms in television history. Christina Applegate, 52, reunited with Ed O'Neill, 78, on an episode of her messy podcast, and they spoke openly about the relationship that began on the set of Married with Children. "I don't even know how to explain this person," said Applegate as she introduced O'Neill. "He raised me. So if you don't like anything about me, it's his fault. Years of my life spent with this man, and he's an incredible actor. He's an incredible human being." ABC 7 New York. That sentence, "he raised me," carried a weight that no scripted line from any of the show's 259 episodes could match. This was not a promotional appearance. This was not a carefully managed celebrity interview. This was a woman in her 50s, living with a serious illness, choosing to tell the truth about the people who shaped her, starting with the man who played her father on television when she was 15 years old and became something close to that in real life. The context of the reunion matters enormously. On October 28, 2025, it was announced that Ed O'Neill, Katie Sagal, Christina Applegate, and David Faustino would reunite live on stage for an evening with the Bundys. The Married with Children cast reunion at the Wiltern Theater in Los Angeles on January 28, 2026. A portion of ticket sales would go to the Multiple Sclerosis Organization race to erase MS. The fact that the reunion was tied directly to MS fundraising was not incidental. It was a reflection of who Christina Applegate is now, and it was a statement about what her former castmates are willing to do to stand beside her. ARP. For many fans, the announcement alone was emotional. The original cast of Married with Children had not gathered on a live stage together in this format before, and the news arrived at a moment when people understood the reunion carried a significance that went well beyond nostalgia. According to the reunion announcement, attendees could expect never-before-heard stories, rare behind-the-scenes moments, and plenty of laughs, as the Bundys relive their most outrageous and iconic memories together. But the behind-the-scenes stories that mattered most had already begun to surface on Christina's podcast months earlier. Billboard. What Christina revealed about the set of Married with Children was not scandalous in the way celebrity exposés usually are. There were no allegations of betrayal or abuse. What she exposed was something quieter and in many ways more profound. The reality of what it meant to spend 11 years of your most formative years on a television set, and how one person's character can shape another person's entire relationship with the world. Applegate recalled how O'Neill acted like a real-life father figure to her when they worked together, and said that he went through everything with her, including her mother's cancer and other difficult personal experiences. "And so my way of keeping myself together was keeping this armor up. I mean, he went through everything with me." ABC 7 New York. The armor she referenced is not a metaphor that was invented for the podcast. Those who followed Christina's health revelations over the preceding years understood exactly what she meant. The teenage girl on that Fox soundstage was not simply learning her lines and collecting a paycheck. She was navigating profound personal struggles while maintaining the performance of cheerful, carefree normalcy that a hit television show required of her every single week. Applegate previously revealed on an episode of her podcast that she had anorexia when she was shooting Married with Children. She said dealing with the eating disorder was extremely difficult and recalled her mother putting her on Weight Watchers when she was 15, which was when the show premiered. Applegate's small frame on the show was described as very scary to everyone behind the camera. They were like, "Christina never eats." They talked to me about it, but to me, I was enormous. ABC 7 New York. Ed O'Neill was present through all of that. He was on that set during those years. He was one of the people who watched her carry a weight that had nothing to do with the character she was playing, and he chose to show up for her in the way that the actual adults in a young person's professional life so rarely do. That is what she was exposing when she sat across from him on the podcast and said he raised her. She was not speaking in the loose, affectionate language of celebrity friendships. She was being precise. When podcast co-host Jamie Lynn Sigler asked O'Neill about his memories of Applegate on the Married set, he said, "Well, Christina, first of all, was great. Most people know this. She's got a photographic memory. So she knew all the lines before anybody could possibly even read them. And she was just a pro. It was great to work with her. It's hilarious. It was always fun to work with Christina." TMZ. The photographic memory detail is one of those facts that reframes everything. The teenager who appeared on screen as the not particularly bright Kelly Bundy had memorized every line in the script before most of the adult cast had finished reading it. The character was a joke. The actress behind the character was something else entirely. O'Neill had recognized that from the beginning, and his respect for her professionalism ran alongside his care for her well-being as a young person in a very adult industry. "I love our relationship now, Eddie," Applegate told O'Neill during the podcast. "Like our relationship now of me being 52 years old." The implication of that sentence is everything. Their relationship had evolved. It was not frozen in the amber of a television show from the 1980s. It had grown and changed as they had grown and changed, surviving the end of the show, the years of separate careers, the divergent paths their lives had taken, and arriving at something that neither of them seemed entirely able to put into words, but that both of them clearly felt. ABC 7, New York. Applegate emphasized O'Neill's expertise and commitment to his craft during the podcast appearance, and revealed behind-the-scenes stories that depicted a man who, despite playing the sardonic and sometimes irritable Al Bundy, was kind and giving off-screen. Her tales of how O'Neill helped the younger actors and enhanced the overall atmosphere on set captured the audience's attention. She discussed the difficulties of preserving comic timing and navigating celebrity at an early age, highlighting how O'Neill's guidance assisted her in overcoming those obstacles. NBC News. The timing of all of this, the podcast reunion in 2024, the live stage reunion announced in late 2025, the fundraising connection to MS research, creates a complete picture of a woman who has decided that the time for keeping things quiet has passed. Christina Applegate's MS diagnosis in 2021 changed her publicly in ways that have been documented and discussed widely. What has been less discussed is how her illness clarified her sense of what deserves to be said out loud while there is still time to say it. She said of the upcoming stage reunion that O'Neill was a safe space for her growing up on set, and she described her feelings about him as an actress and as a person with the same directness she had brought to everything since her diagnosis. "Years and years of my life spent with this man, and he's an incredible actor. He's an incredible human being." Billboard. The live reunion at the Wiltern was not designed to be filmed. According to the announcement, there are no plans to film the reunion, which means the only chance to see the Bundy clan gathering would be in person at the Wiltern. Race to Erase MS, which is dedicated to the treatment and cure of multiple sclerosis, will receive $2 from every ticket sold. The decision not to film it is significant. This was not a content play. This was not a streaming special designed to monetize nostalgia. This was for people who had spent years of their lives together choosing to get back in a room and be honest about what that had meant, with the money going to the organization fighting the disease that had changed one of their own. Hola. A second live reunion is set to take place on May 9, 2026, at the Orpheum Theater in Los Angeles as part of the Netflix Is a Joke Festival. The fact that a second date was added speaks to the demand, but also to the willingness of the entire cast to keep showing up for Christina in formats that accommodate her health and her boundaries as the person who is navigating MS while doing all of this. AARP. What Christina Applegate exposed about Ed O'Neill after the reunion was not a scandal. It was a truth that had been living quietly between two people for nearly 40 years, surfacing now because the circumstances of her life had made privacy feel less important than honesty. She exposed the fact that genuine mentorship exists in Hollywood, that it can come from unexpected sources, that it can survive the end of a television show and the passage of decades and a serious illness, and still be standing when everything else has changed. She exposed the fact that the man who played Al Bundy, the character who spent 11 seasons complaining about his wife, insulting his neighbors, and lamenting every choice he had ever made, was in real life someone who showed up for a 15-year-old girl and kept showing up year after year, through everything. That is the exposure. And it turns out to be one of the most genuinely moving things to emerge from a show that spent its entire run being intentionally outrageous. The bond between them has remained since the series ended in 1997, continuing through their reunions, and to this day, with Applegate describing their ongoing connection across the decades as something she values deeply as she faces the daily challenges of her illness. TMZ. The Bundy family that audiences loved was fictional. The relationship between the woman who played Kelly and the man who played her father turned out to be something different entirely. And it took a podcast, a live reunion, and a disease that forced Christina Applegate to stop holding things back for the rest of the world to finally understand what had been there all along.